chaps.
Good
How we
morning.
doing?
Hello there.
Welcome, one and all, to Tittle Talking in the Library. It is going to be, I think, as the chat has already shown, something of a controversial episode. Hello, Jeffram. I was actually about to say hello to you first because, yes, we are also on Rumble. YouTube is what I push the most, but I do appreciate everyone that is watching over on Rumble as well. And there are a couple of you. Oh, excuse me. I have something of a bit of hay fever. So do bear with me. Who have we got about? Paladin Steve. Very appropriate. The Paladin Steve is here. We've got the Dungeon Delver, who I actually respect his passion on this topic an awful lot. But I don't think an argument is what we're here for today. Stug is here. Hello, Stug. And we've got Ashray. Hello, hello. I hope you've been appreciating all of the Drow content that I've been pushing out recently. That's because the algorithm really likes Drow. And we've got Tacti Platty. Hello, AGP is here. Hello, hello. Of course, the mod wife is in the background, keeping an eye over the kingdom. So, Paladin Steve, in with the first super chat. $5 dues. Paladins rule. Warlocks drool. And I have to agree, Warlocks are not really my favorite class, either to play or to DM for. I had one chap who played nothing but Warlocks for about 3 characters.
Yeah. And he never really got a lot better at it either.
You think after a few years you'd sort of know what you're
doing.
doing.
Like the simplest class, you just spam Eldritch Blast.
But what about Hunger of Hadar?
Oh god, the worst spell in the game.
Right. Bloody hell. I've still got this tickle in my throat. It's been weeks. Absolutely weeks of just little hacking coughs. Horrid, horrible. Right. What was I saying? What was I doing? Who are you? Brass, hello. Dean, hello.
Hello.
It's just us for this evening. Because we're going to have a lovely conceptual conversation mostly. Brass, you're the bloke I go to on Paladins. They are your favorite class.
They are indeed. I've played 3 Paladins in a row.
Yes, you have. Dean,
Yes.
you are obviously here to be the old hat in the room, voice of wisdom from the elder days, and I am here to profit from both of you. That is it. Someone just end me. Someone lay on hands me. Actually, that you see that was.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, pretty good. On topic, that was.
On topic, yeah. So let's just jump into it and say, look, we are not specifically focusing on any particular Dungeons and Dragons stuff today because Paladin is a thing that sort of goes far beyond the realms of the game in all of its editions. Yes, you lost your crown. Someone bought the crown, that's why. Oh, bloody hell. Someone kill me. Just end me. So we're focusing on the concepts. And this concept of Paladin, it goes back quite a ways. I thought it went back to Charlemagne.
I thought it went back to Age of Empires 2.
No,
Paladins.
The word paladin actually goes back a lot further than that. So paladin was based on a French word, paladin, which was based on an Italian word, paladino, which is actually based on a Latin word, palatinus, which means palace officer or imperial guard.
I knew that just from knowing a bit of Latin.
So the term paladin was first written down in 1592, the court of Charlemagne, as his legendary knights, one of the 12.
1592?
Yeah, alleged. That's the first written recording.
So it's not from Charlemagne.
No. It was written about Charlemagne's court. French literature called Song of Roland.
Roland is a very famous figure. I actually have a book of myths, and he's in it. That I was my Bible as growing up as a kid. And Roland fought off the Moors in, I think, the Pyrenees Mountains. And indeed, he did all on his own, I think, with his squire, and he was never heard from again. It's never really said if he dies or not, I don't think. But yeah, Roland and his squires basically fight off a Muslim invasion, like a Christian version of Thermopylae. We do have a Rumble rant right out the gate from Jeff from Denkar. $2 dues. In my years when I have played a paladin, I've had my mount eliminated several times to the point I prefer to replace that ability. What would you replace the special's mount ability with? I would not. I would simply make the mount resummonable, which is how 5th edition does it, and I'm very glad it does. Because Glimmer, my horse Glimmerwind, has died many times. Killed.
And now it has the stats of a unicorn.
Yes, the stats of a unicorn indeed. Because I rescued a unicorn from petrification. How about you guys? What would you replace the ability, or would you just summon it back?
Yeah, I think any kind of animal companion in D&D needs to be resummonable. Otherwise, it just becomes useless.
I do have to give a quick shout out to the Dungeon Delver. Thank you very much for the super chat. $2 dues. The Hat Wars have begun. Begun? Hat Wars have.
Yeah. I would rethink the whole summoning mount so it actually works. And I do agree. Being able to summon your mount, should it perish, is a key. It should be a key ability of the Paladin. In 2nd edition, it was never used, or rarely. There were some campaigns that were based in the wilderness where a mount could be used, but the first fireball, the first dragon breath, and you're looking for another mount. So it was hard.
Shall we tell him of Napoleon?
Yeah. So right at the start of the campaign I'm currently doing, right? This was back when they were quite low level and gold was hard to come by. And the Bard, who was the charismatic leader of the group, decides to put together all his money to buy a horse, and he called it Napoleon, but little did he know that this session I already had a bandit ambushed planned for the moment they leave the city. And these bandits were not just like idiot bandits either, they had firebombs. So the moment they left the city with his car and horse he spent all his money on, instantly, I mean, to be fair, it was Jack's fault, he triggered the ambush. But
I triggered the ambush early, because the ambush would have triggered anyway. I went and scouted, is what he's saying.
Yeah, there was a fallen tree in the road, and Jack thought, "Oh, this is obvious an ambush. I'm gonna dismount, and I'm gonna look, like sneak around in the bushes." And he walked straight into a bandit, and they just sort of panicked, and went, "Oh shit!" and just threw all their firebombs, and bye bye horsey.
The funny thing is, the Bard died in the same way.
Oh yeah, that is true. He died
in
to
a
a
ball of fire. Guys, people are arguing over the hats, and it's making me lots of money. Give me a second.
Yeah, keep going.
Jack McCarthy. Jack, do you like your name? The name Jack? I don't. I do not like the name Jack, but that's a story for another time. Can goblins be paladins? I'm going to win back some favor from Delver here. No. Goblins are there to die.
Yeah,
next.
I don't think goblins have what it takes to be a paladin.
Dean's going to say otherwise. Dean's going to go, yeah, why not?
No. Gob. Well, it depends which edition you're talking,
it depends on the
obviously.
setting, blah, blah, blah.
But generally, goblins, no, they're too uncivilized. You have to be a follower of a very organized religion to be a paladin. Goblins won't.
Fair. We have another $5 dues from Tacti Platty. Hat Wars again, episode 3, Revenge of the Hat. Yes. Let them continue. Oh, brothers Crin has arrived. Hello, sir. I haven't watched your trailer yet. Your arrival has reminded me. I did bookmark it. Where are we? What were we talking about? Oh, Napoleon died. All good heroes are named Jack. I don't know. I don't know about that.
And also, Brothers Crin said goblins can't, but orcs can. Which which I think I have opinions.
Oh, no, there's more super chats. We're never going to actually get onto a conversation, chaps, because Heretic, who came here from a stream that I can't pronounce, to hear me talking about my horse Glimmerwind, gives me $5 dues to say, but what if the Goblin Trains has a montage and plays Eye of the Tiger? Still no. Goblins are there to die. Oh, I nearly banned him for it. don't do that.
No, don't.
Thank you for the $5 dues. Let's address the elephant in the room here. We all have quite differing opinions on what a paladin is or should be or is not. It's obviously a lot more than a palace guard, and it's obviously a lot more than a Charlemagne knight specifically. And I think it does have an air of chivalric value to it. There is a book that has been recommended time and time again that is already on my reading list called 3 Hearts, 3 Lions. And yes, I'm aware of its existence and I do really intend to read it. It's just I've got a reading list as long as my arm and no time with which to read. My views on paladins are quite traditional. I realize that I have uploaded things today that I have called, and then throughout the week called Elf Paladins and Drow Paladins of Lolth. And you know what that did? It got me a hell of a lot of traction. And it's... I think traditionally human paladins and restricting it to lawful good human paladins is the pinnacle of what a paladin should be. I think in the way I think about paladins, it's kind of a little bit informed by Brass's take on them, is that paladins are the space marines. In a world of horrors like dragons and orcs and things, paladins are the super soldiers of a human kingdom. They're the guys that you call on to just walk into a nest of monsters and blow it up. They are the No Mercy Brigade. Massive plate armor, big shield, big sword, big hammer, holy smite. That is how I view paladins. Now, in my tiefling video, I wrote a story about a tiefling whose name was called Quest Redemption, because tieflings like to take names of things they aspire to. She was a fighter, but her story, if I'd have continued it, was supposed to sort of go toward her trying to find a way to become a human, to rid herself of the demonic corruption, and then change from fighter into an Oath of Redemption paladin. That is something that I think is quite... That speaks to me on a sort of a level of storytelling. Another one that I think makes sense for paladins is Aasimar, who I think are just humans with a little bit more oomph, so they kind of feed into this super soldier mentality. This is what I find paladins to be, in my view. Oaths are dumb.
True.
I will say now, paladins should have a god. Dungeon Delver, thank you for the $2 dues. Lawful good does not indeed mean lawful nice, Deus Vault. I do actually agree with that.
True.
To an extent. And we'll get into why in a second. I'm going to put a note down here, and it's going to be about alignment grayness. When you guys have finished talking about how you view paladins, I want to talk about the ways in which alignment isn't just one thing. But we'll go with Brass, and then we'll go to Dean.
Right. So.
Oh, before we do that, only the Franks can have paladins. So I think Brass does know.
Well, I mean, it's not only the Franks, but they do have the best paladins, okay? Anyway, in my opinion, right, so paladins, no matter what race, because they can be more than human, right, are elite warriors, because they are warriors of exceptional skill that have earned the right to be blessed by a god. Therefore, already before they became a paladin, they were, like, in a class of their own. Now, in terms of, like, mechanically, I tend to think that you're not really a paladin in D&D until you're level 5 or above. Anything below that, you are a paladin in training.
That's cool.
The oath thing, I agree with Jack, is dumb. They should just call it like a path, not an oath. Path of redemption, not like the oath should not be the thing that gives you the power. However, I have an image of 2 types of paladin, and both of them are technically lawful good. They just meet different definitions of lawful good. So the first one is your Space Marine Doom guy, right? Someone who you can just is a living weapon. You could drop one of these in the abyss, and they would just cleave through hordes and hordes of demons, and just for weeks on end. Okay, and that is technically a lawful good paladin. Or if you're like a paladin of like a god of war, for example, right? You might not be evil, but you might be cleaving through orcs, you might be cleaving through goblins, you might even be cleaving through other people, and you are an instrument of divine wrath at that point. You are still lawful because you are following strict tenets and creeds of your god, right? And you're usually still good because you're not cleaving through innocent people. Right, you're not any of that. If you want to get into non-good paladins, I do have an opinion on that. They do exist, but not as paladins. The other type of paladin I think of is the chivalrous Knights of the Round Table. Right, they are the sort of like compassionate, charitable. They show like mercy. They never draw their sword in anger.
The virtuous knights.
The virtuous, yeah. They turn the other cheek. They basically follow like sort of the creeds of like a Christian knight as they were supposed to. But both of those are technically still the same alignment. You can either be cleaving through armies of demons and also, protecting children, saving an orphanage, saving a cat out of the tree. Like no task is beneath you, but no task is above you either. So.
Move your head slightly.
There we go. Cut out the tree.
There we are. Save that. But in terms of non-human paladins, I do like the aesthetic of a human paladin is what we think of when we think of paladins. Now, I would also extend it to dwarves. However, right, if you take an elven paladin, for example, they can exist, but they would be flavored as something else. So mechanically, you could play as an elf in D&D and play the class paladin, right? You're being blessed by Serenray or whoever, right? Some divine god. There's no reason why an elf cannot essentially work the same way as a human paladin, right? And they wouldn't be a cleric or a fighter either, because they're still blessing, they're still smiting, all that type of thing. But in my opinion, if you world build it right, the elves would have a different name for that. Right?
I agree. World building is the key to it.
Yeah, it would just a champion of their god, and it would be a different thing. And you could even have, they do exist. What if Lolth, right? Let's say you were a warrior, a drow or something that follows Lolth, and Lolth blesses you with divine, albeit evil, power. What are you? Are you a cleric? Are you a fighter? No. Mechanically, you're a paladin, but lore-wise, you would be, I don't know, a Dark Justiciar. I know that's a Shah thing, not a Lolth thing, but that's the first thing that came to my head.
There you go. There's a drow paladin for you.
Excellent. Very heavily armored.
Indeed. The drow are more dexterous anyway, so it's fine. I would like to ask, why is there French being spoken in my chat? Do not make me get the Union Jack out. God save the king. Dean.
Yes. Well, I find what Brass has said quite interesting, but the term paladin, when I was asked my favorite class, human male fighter came up because it is, but my second favorite closely behind that is obviously paladin. Love playing paladins in 2nd edition. Despite all the restrictions, despite needing to roll incredible attributes, and despite a lot of people saying, oh, no one will ever play paladins, a lot of people aspired to play them because they were an interesting class. Talking about how they were elite fighters, however, Well, they didn't have access to specialization in second edition until Splat books came out. So a fighter was still a lot better with a blade than a paladin was. But what made the paladin iconic was the holy sword and the aspiration that at some point your paladin will get a holy sword and be able to wield that power against their enemies. They also had a raft of abilities which were fantastic. So in first edition, absolutely right, paladins had to be human. I don't understand why, but okay, it's a big restriction.
I do understand why. We'll get into that in a bit.
Okay. Second edition, the restriction remained, including on magic items, but then the Paladin Handbook introduced the Demi-Paladin, which was an option for demi-humans to be able to become paladins of a sort, which required them to be a fighter-cleric multi-class. When they attained third level as cleric, they could go on holy quests, and they could do this 3 times, third, fifth, and seventh levels. If they completed their quests, they gained a paladin ability that was attached to their class from a long list of abilities like the protection from evil, the sense, the detect evil intent, stuff like that. And that was the first time it was kind of broadened, and then third edition just kind of blew the doors open on it. But each of those editions managed to keep it tied to what I believe is the core of what makes a paladin, which is the religion that they follow. And this is the approach I've taken, which is a paladin is a holy warrior of a religion that is very organized. They have structure, they have set tenets, very organized and also very holy. They seek to do the best for civilizations. Even if sometimes that is a little bit misplaced, they believe that they're doing things for the greater good, and sacrifice comes from the greater good. With that kind of mindset, I'm now there thinking, well, why is it restricted to human? Anybody who goes through the training, anybody who follows the creed, anybody who gives themselves over to that and accepts that their life is now this rigid life going forward of being a protector of their faith and a defender of the weak, a smiter of the evil. What would the race matter anymore? So whereas I was kind of back in the day, humans, brilliant, they can only be paladins. Since then, I've kind of broadened on that. And I think the most important thing, and this is what was lost in 5th edition, and something I really didn't like, is religion was taken completely out of it. It was no longer about who you followed. So you would go, oh, I'm a paladin. Oh, of which god? Oh, no, I'm a paladin of devotion or a paladin of conquest, or And
I said a magic promise, and now I can smite things with the power of the gods.
Exactly. And that, to me, took the heart and soul out of what it is to be a paladin. The paladin, you're right, it's not about the code, it's about the tenets they follow for the faith that they have dedicated themselves to.
I mean, most modules in 5th still assume they have a god.
Really?
The older
wish
ones,
they would put that into the player's handbook then.
Well, on the topic of human paladins too, the problem with strictly restricting it to humans and nothing but humans is, what about half-elves? Because half-elves can live as humans, basically, in human society, practically no different from a human, right? They're just pointy ears, that's almost the entire difference, and slight, charm resistance and all that. Why can't they be made paladins?
So there's something that perhaps I can help answer in a moment. We've got some super chats and rumble rants. So we have got super chat from Paladin Steve. $5 dues, Steve. Thank you very much. There is no such thing as a drow paladin, so saith the Paladin of Lost Lore. Well, I am the Lost Lore scholar. I own the library. There's drow paladins. We also have another rumble rant, again from Jeff from Denkar for $2 dues. And he says, back in 2E, Paladins had strict limits on the magic equipment they could own. 1 sword, 1 shield, 1 armor, 4 other weapons, 4 magic items. Should we go back to that or a variant on this idea? I'm not so sure. I don't think it would really work so much in a modern game. But I do like the idea that a paladin or a monk is or a ranger actually in the older games is expected to give their gold away to charity and not hoard wealth. I think, but that kind of leads into the end game of domain play and what your characters were expected to be going and doing at later levels. So I'm not sure about the utility of that at the moment. But to go back to your question, Brass, what about half elves? This is something I might be able to answer a little bit more because half elves are, in my view, half elves are Elrond half elven. And they're the Numenorians. They're the bloodline that is able to choose an elven life or a human life, sort of between worlds. So I like the aesthetic of human-only paladins, and I think half-elves themselves should be incredibly rare, vanishingly rare in most of these settings. And that kind of leads me into another point I was going to make. In the Monster Manual for first edition Dungeons & Dragons, Gygax writes about, if you look at the elf stat block particularly, he writes about how many of a certain kind of elf you would find in groups of 10, 50, 100, 500, 1,000, 10,000 elves. That's not so that you're running an encounter with 10,000 elves, because that would be ridiculous. It's so you have an idea of the breakdown and setup of the skills within a society. And in Gygax's mind, elves were not warriors so much as they were magic users and rangers and things like that. So I think it really does depend. It goes all the way back. We circle all the way back to world building. How do you want this world to function from the get-go? I think if you're playing a Warhammer Fantasy game, Paladins, Grail Guardians can only be Bretonnian humans. That's it. If you're playing a game which is a little less xenophobic, let's say, then you can find various types of these divinely blessed warriors from different societies and cultures, and they might have different names, different aesthetics, and varying flavors of abilities. But at the end of the day, is it not just a holy warrior? It all comes down to world building in my mind.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, don't just agree with me. Disagree with me. Say things.
Look, I mean, if you look at World of Warcraft, right? So mechanically, all the paladins have to be exactly the same because it's a game, and it needs balance. But other than like humans and dwarves, because dwarves were directly taught about the light from the humans, so they share the same religion. You have Blood Elf paladins who are not religious at all. They get their divine power from the Sunwell, which is just a source of power in the middle of their city, which they are addicted to, and they need it to survive, right? Because they are magic addicts, and in this case, they're addicted to the light. Then you have the Draenei, who are from a different world entirely, and these are kind of the servants of the Naru, which are these celestial beings, which turn out to be behind the light in the first place. So they have a more sort of enlightened, experienced look, and they're more zealous than like the humans, because the humans kind of have faith and religion and prayer and all that type of thing. They're praying to this mysterious light that, you know, it's up to interpretation. But the Draenei, like, we know what it is. We follow these things around this, the cosmos all the time, being chased by demons. So they're a bit more like strict and rigid in how they view the light. And then there's also talks of like night elf paladins. They're not in the game, but they would be moon blessed paladins. They have a goddess of the moon, and it would be the same mechanics as a paladin, but different aesthetic. And I think that's the same with D&D. Like, you could have back to orc paladins. Someone mentioned orc paladins. There's no reason why an orc warrior could not be blessed with immense might and power, and magical, like, divine power from Grumsh. Now, they wouldn't be following a code.
It's a big plot point in the Orc King and the Thousand Orcs.
Yeah, but they would have different flavor and a different name for that, because they're not following a the same sort of tenets a human paladin would be following, right?
Yes.
But they would still have their own tenets according to Grumsh, right? There would still be rules they had to follow. Like, for example,
but they wouldn't be a paladin.
yeah, but that's what, like, mechanically, they technically are, because there's no other class in D&D that would fit that description of a divinely blessed orc warrior.
If you're referring to 5e, I think you're right. Previous editions, I think you would struggle to make that work.
Maybe, yeah, but
you would think more of a blackguard, I take it, Dean.
Yeah,
I have heard that
mentioned
mentioned,
the blackguard.
but yeah, that makes sense. Like, for example, that's I am in 5e. A blackguard, that's what you could call it if you're an evil paladin. I don't know how the blackguard and paladin differ in 3.5. I never played 3.5. But that's what I mean, is like there are different flavors of the idea of a paladin mechanically, but they don't have to all follow the same creeds and codes and all that.
Before we continue, I just want to ask people, if you've not done so already, please do like the stream. If you feel so inclined, do share the stream. It helps me out a lot. Thank you very much. Go on, Dean.
So it depends on your definition of paladin. If you're talking paladin as a concept, then surely that must be somewhere around a holy warrior.
I agree with that. Yeah.
You're tying in religion. You're tying in the good aspect. It means every religion could call their paladins something separately, and that then becomes the identity of those paladins. So they're all paladins. They all follow they all have the same sort of powers, but they all have different names according to the different religions. And I think I'm kicking myself. I haven't got the book behind me, but the Forgotten Realms 2nd edition had this great book, Faiths and Pantheons, which really went into a lot more about the different religions and what their followers were called, what the clerics were called, what the paladins were called, and so forth. And you had some very interesting names come up, but it didn't stop the fact that they were still the class paladin, albeit they had a different name. When you talk about this, this anointed warrior of Grumsh, if he had mechanics similar to a paladin, then I wouldn't say that makes him a paladin. You look at sorcerer and mage; they have similar mechanics to each other, yet they're very different from each other. A paladin would be doing holy smites, radiant damage, stuff like that. The one from Grumsh, probably a lot of necrotic damage, wouldn't be curing disease, would be inflicting it. Their spell selection should be very different, but in 5e you get access to everything, so there's not much point in that, which is really unfortunate. I missed the days of 2nd edition where the religion you followed had a big impact on the power you
this
grew up
this
on.
was his point, though, is that it doesn't really matter what you call it if mechanically arose by any other name.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like, I think there should be a you've got the Oathbreaker in 5e, which as Jack brought up last time it was mentioned, like, how does the paladin still have power if they've broken their oath? But I think the idea of it is it's supposed to be a paladin that's turned to darkness and has strayed away from their god towards another power. And that, I think, is fine. Like the Blackguard, for example, in 3.5, I think there should be a 5e class like that. But coming from the perspective of someone who plays 5e and there isn't another mechanical option. Let's say you were playing an evil campaign. We're playing as orcs. And one of your players is, I want to be a chosen of Grumsh that empowers the other orcs around me, blesses them with the might of Grumsh, that type of thing. Mechanically, then, they would play as a paladin. If you're good at world building, you wouldn't call them a paladin. Yeah, you'd reflavor it. That's kind of the idea.
Yeah. With 5e, you
speaking of chosen of Grumsh,
Yeah.
Thank you for the super chat, $2 dues, Heretic. Appreciate that. See you, Brothers Grin. Have a good day. Also, violence. I saw violence solves everything around. Welcome, sir. We're focusing an awful lot on the tabletop, which is fair. However, it's not the be-all and end-all of the genre. If you were to build a story around an orc paladin, it wouldn't have the same sort of oomph as a human paladin. I think the reason that human knight paladin resonates with readers is, think about the what I told you guys about on our little impromptu stream about the legend of the worm of the hill or something, where you have this knight in armor that goes against the big monster. That's where this is stemming from. I mean, the legend of Roland, which is where the written reference we've referred to earlier on comes from, is about a knight in armor standing against impossible odds. Saint George and the Dragon, knight in armor slaying a dragon. And I think it's important because, Dean, this sort of files into your organized religion point. These are figures of Catholic, Orthodox, and other versions of Christianity, specifically, where you have chivalric oaths taken in a large hierarchical ecclesiastical structure. And then these are the militant arms of these. You get the Knights Templar, Hospitaller, Teutonic Knights. All of these sorts of ideas feed back into, if you say paladin on the side of the road to Doris as she's doing her shopping at Tesco, she's 80 years old. Oh, yes, I suppose a paladin would be a knight. And he's very kind and gentle, but also strong and brave. And that's what people think of when they think paladins. They think of the chivalric, gentle. You call them Arthurian knights, Brass, which is a very good way of thinking about it. It is so incredibly important, I think, to realize why the orc paladin doesn't strike true. Mechanically, yeah, I get it. Thematically, nah.
Oh yeah, I think we're all in agreement on that. Like, Eddie, if you mention paladin, as you said, everyone thinks human, divine, light, healing, protection, protect the innocent, all that type of thing, slay demons.
Yeah, a space marine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, whether you think of it as a space marine or you think of it as a chivalric knight, they're both kind of the same thing. One protects and one smites, but that's kind of what a paladin does.
They are both the shield and the sword.
Yeah, you are either the sword of your god or the shield.
I think, because I'm playing a paladin in your game at the moment, you're playing a paladin in my game at the moment.
True.
Stug with $2 dues. Put the pal back in paladin. I think what I most note about playing a paladin is it does give you that air of needing to do noble causes, needing to be a noble figure. And my paladin and your paladin are both Aasimar.
True.
Not human, but human with a little extra oomph. Thematic, in my mind. I don't know, guys. I think that anything that is paladin-wise, I think silver dragons can be paladins. Yes. In fact, in my first campaign I had an entire order of knightly paladins that were all polymorph silver dragons. And their entire reason for existence was to kill a Draco Lich, which was returning. I think that's pretty epic.
I think there may even be some actual dragon paladin-ish paladins in lore. I don't know. I might have heard that from some unreliable source, but I've heard of bronze dragons going around disguised as paladins, fighting evil, and all that type of thing. And I guess they could get divine power from Bahamut, and so
why wouldn't they?
Yeah, like theoretically, mechanically, and even morally, they could be a paladin.
Or what happens if you've got a setting with no humanity?
No paladin, sorry. That'd been... Because the thing about paladins is we have these discussions about paladins specifically, but like I never hear anyone go, "Oh, you can't be a cleric of an evil entity," or "Clerics have to be this alignment or that." Like some people might stick to that, but you've got clerics of Lolth, you've got clerics of Shar.
Yep.
But when it comes to paladins specifically, I guess at the end of the day, most people's definition of it is the righteousness not the the mechanics is one thing, but I think it's specifically the righteousness. Like this is a good. Because I guess what it is at the end of the day is that the forces of good in any fantasy world, they need their own ace up the sleeve.
That is exactly how I started this conversation.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like let's say you live in the D&D world, like Forgotten Realms or whatever. There's dragons, there's demons, there's undead, there's orcs, there's drow, there's all these things. How are you, as a little human village in the middle of nowhere, possibly supposed to survive without some kind of mighty hero on your side? And that's what the paladin's supposed to be, right? It's like if there's a gnoll raiding party attacking a village, the villagers can't really defend themselves very easily. The gnoll or goblins or orcs or whatever monsters you want to come up with. But a paladin, in my mind, should be the righteous hero that steps in when the innocents can't defend themselves, and they take on that threat. And they should be able to do with it. A paladin, in my mind, should be able to take on a goblin raiding party or a gnoll camp, or maybe not an entire orc warband because they're kind of bigger.
They are the John Wick.
Yeah,
he's not the Baba Yaga. He's the one you send to kill the Baba Yaga.
It's that song from Shrek. I need a hero. Okay. That's the paladin at the end of the day. Like, who do you call on?
Shrek's an ogre, not human.
Oh, true, actually.
Wasn't he a human at the time of that song?
No.
No. He was at some point, wasn't he?
Different film. I've seen Shrek. One film I've seen.
Shrek 2 isn't Shrek 2 where that song comes in?
No, Shrek 1.
Human. It was Shrek 1.
I don't remember.
Wait.
No, I think it's Shrek 2.
It's in both, isn't it? And it's where he's human and he's trying to break into the...
I was thinking of when he's going into the castle and fighting the dragon. Doesn't it play then?
Nah, it doesn't. Yeah, it plays when it's the godmother, fairy godmother.
Yeah, she's singing it, isn't she? Oh, boy. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Here's me saying I've seen films.
Yes, I do mean Bonnie Tyler's I Need a Hero, but I couldn't think of the name of the singer at the time. So it's
so Shrek it was.
He's human. Yeah.
I want to point out, Tim Newman, that's a very good point. The Teutonic Order would not often be seen as chivalrous. Very, very good point.
So this is the thing. If you want to go to the true definition of paladins, paladins aren't good and lawful at all, because almost every holy order has been very a little bit corrupt, and even if they have noble tenets, they don't always follow those tenets.
Well, here's the thing: insisting. Sorry, Dean, I'll let you go in a sec, but insisting that humans are the only paladins means you have to accept that these humans are very fallible. And the greyness of their alignment will seep in. But we'll get onto that in a moment. Dean?
I was going to build on that, which is being a holy knight, a paladin, one of Arthur's court, always at the forefront of your mind is wanting to do what's best, wanting to uphold your faith, and wanting to make sure that you aspire to greatness. Paladins will sometimes be put in that situation where a plague hits a village, and they're the only people in the area. They've got to contain the plague. What do? They do
Arthas from World of Warcraft.
Arthas, no.
Yeah, you burn the village down because that's all you could do back then. So stories start to go around about how you're evil, you're cruel, but as a paladin, as someone who has incredible faith, you're looking at a much grander picture. You would sacrifice yourself if it meant the survival of civilization. You're a small cog.
There's some untold destiny themes happening here.
Yeah, it's that mindset that differentiates a master at arms who can just pick up any weapon and use it, and someone who's dedicated themselves to a faith and can do something similar, but in a more focused, more controlled way.
Here's an interesting thing. Paladins. Jedi Knights.
I mean,
they have a code.
That's the closest thing to a paladin in the Star Wars universe.
They have a code. They focus on a particular martial style. Lightsaber. I know
so does a knight. So
They have a connection to a divine, all-encompassing power, the Force, which gives them visions of the future.
They can sense darkness.
So does
the
a
evil.
champion of Grumsh.
Yeah.
I think at this point we have realized that Yoda was actually a paladin.
Which means non-humans can be paladins.
Indeed. Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah. Aliens can be paladins.
Yoda's a goblin, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, true, actually. But there are other Jedis that are not Yoda and are not human. But yeah, I think another thing with paladins as well is that they, because of the modern media anti-religious sentiment,
I am my scars.
paladins, I have noticed, since the mid to late 2000s, have often been portrayed in media as either evil or incompetent. I noticed this a lot with, if you're in an anime, for example, like I always bring up anime because, you know, they like to portray the religious Christian order as, oh, look, they were the bad guys all along.
It's a bit of a 50-50 mix, I think.
Well, the ones I've watched, they do it.
Yeah.
But there's always, I think it's just a common thing to be like, oh, here's the church. You know, if I'm watching Castlevania, for example, and it's like the church were the real bad guys all along. But
what, when they bring out the Ku Klux Klan Knights, you mean?
Yeah, pretty much. And they're always depicted, not just paladins, but just...
that wasn't Castlevania. That was Helsing. Sorry.
Similar sort of thing. But like, they get depicted very often as they're stupid, they're all zealots, or they're just outright evil. They're either misguided or evil. They're never the ones that are right, and they're never the ones that are good. Now, I was just watching, before we got to this, I was watching the Overlord movie. I can't remember what it was, the anime, right? And they released a 2-hour film. And in that, there's a Paladin Order. Now, the Grand Master of this Paladin Order is batshit insane, but she is insane because her whole world is being conquered by this god, sorcerer, king, undead, right? And demons, and there's demi-humans, and there's all sorts of monsters running around, and humans stand no chance against them. And yet she's gone insane because she's like actually the only one that can kind of see through the ruse of like this big undead guy is actually evil, and she's actually right about it because he's going around pretending to be the hero and protecting them and saving them so that everyone worships him. And she's the only one who calls it out, and she wants to protect the innocent. That's her whole thing. There's a scene where there's these demi-humans that have conquered a town. These paladins charge towards it. They're summoning all these angelic beings and all that type of thing, and it looks like it's going to be an epic charge. And then one demi-human just sort of like dangles a kid over the battlements with a knife to its throat, and the paladins all just stop, and they're like, well, what the fuck do we do? Because if we take another step, then we will be responsible for the death of an innocent. And the Grand Master of the Order is very much in the camp of, well, we need to find another way. We can't allow that child to be killed. But the Sorcerer King and some others, they basically convince them, like, you still need to charge, because if you show them that hostages are effective, they will continue to use hostages against you. Right? They will do it to the other people. And so these paladins have this moral conflict, but at least it shows them as the good guys, which is actually kind of rare in modern media. Normally, they're just incompetent morons, idiots. There's another scene where like you got these regular soldiers getting overtaken by these monsters, and just one regular paladin shows up, casts this blessing, protects them from fear, shields them from like magic and stuff like that, and they just rally and fight back. And I think that's what a paladin's meant to be.
Well, it seems like you've got some agreement. By the way, Steve, now you have to change your name to Jedi Steve for a week. I think Paladins... Would it be fair to say...
Very good.
Would it be fair to say that the reason some of the grognards, Dean, your fellows in your age bracket, they get so upset about the Paladin thing because it ties so closely, and we're only going to brush on this ever so gently because I don't want to go into the weeds, it ties so closely to the culture war and what they perceive as having been done to the hobby.
That, and maybe the Satanic Panic as well.
I can understand that, and it's a foundation of the first, second edition. Things might have changed slightly in second edition when the handbook came out. That was towards the end of second edition. Then third came along, and each edition has eroded that foundation, has changed it. So I can understand not wanting to see that foundation shift or change and being firm, because it is the foundation of what is classically Dungeons and Dragons. But D&D's become all about allowing anybody to do anything with anyone, and it's all the restrictions go. There are no consequences to decisions. There's no strengths and weaknesses. Everybody ends up doing everything just as they would. Arguing that it shouldn't be like that. It's like arguing that one film shouldn't be. Actually, a good example, that the Star Wars 7, 8, and 9 films should be more like 4, 5, and 6. No, they will never be like that. What J.J. Abrams started, it took the Star Wars universe in a completely different. If you want to just keep with what you know, which is A New Hope and those first 3 films, possibly The Phantom Menace and those, that's all you got left. So having an argument and saying no, the way you're playing Paladins is wrong because they should only ever be human, and it's a good stance to take, but at the same time it's futile because D&D has changed. Either continue playing the old edition or accept the new edition is nothing like the foundation.
We can bring this back to religion. Appropriate considering the topic. I think there is such a thing as the tradition, the sacred tradition, as it regards human storytelling. So in Catholicism and in the Orthodoxy, there is this idea that tradition is something that has come down to us from the apostles. And rather than it being a stagnant thing, which is just a game of Chinese whispers, it is a growing, flourishing, living thing that expands and branches out into the religion that you then see 1,000 years down the line. And I think when it comes to human restriction on paladins, that is where it has come from, but it has now grown. And when you are tending a tree, attending a tradition, then you need to know which part of the tradition is healthy and which part needs to be separated out. Another way of thinking about this is I posted a video called Tradition is Everything not too long ago, which did somewhat well for the channel. And I argued that there is a grand stream, a grand river of mythology, history, storytelling that leads all the way down into the modern period, into the genre fantasy of it all. And that is where we kind of find ourselves at the forefront of. We're the breaker wave of this tradition. And there are those trying to bring in parts of other bits and pieces into a grander thing. And you can tell that it's not a freshwater thing they're bringing in, it's salt water. It doesn't quite jive with everything that came before. So you need to kind of discern which has come down to us from Roland and from Charlemagne and that tradition, and what is being added in to weaken. Because an Aasimar paladin is not necessarily going to function differently to a human one. However, a paladin that is brought in to just naysay and subvert the expectations of what a paladin is supposed to be in traditional mythology and fantasy, that is a little bit more subversive. Would I be on to something there? Do you think that may be the sticking point for a lot of these older guys?
I think you are, because it's. I was a huge Star Wars fan, and I went through a period where I was railing against anyone about the latest films. I hated them. They were destroying the universe.
I still hate them.
Yeah. And then I reached that point where I just stopped. I stopped because I didn't care about Star Wars at all.
Mhm.
And I can't even watch the old films because I don't care about any of it anymore.
Mm.
And when you've got a passionate grognard who's talking about this, it's because they care so much about D&D.
Yeah.
They want it to remain as pure as it was, and they see every single change, every single thing that chips away at that foundation as taking it in a direction they don't feel is right, they don't like. And it's a direction that commercially probably isn't doing Wizards too many favors right now, if all the rumors are to be believed on their sales of their latest books.
That's because they've taken, as I said, in tradition is everything. They have taken, they are coming out of a tradition that is not the tradition of the fantasy, the Appendix N sort of thing. They're coming out of the postmodernist deconstructionist tradition and attempting to construct a facsimile of a fantasy genre from that, which isn't going to work. It's going to fall flat on its face.
It's a fantasy genre made by committee, by the looks of it. What will appeal to the majority? What will appeal to the masses? Yeah.
When
by focus group.
What you are trying to do, like, I love the fantasy genre. I still love Star Wars, by the way. I hate the new films. But I'm also willing to make sexy Jedi ladies, which would never fly in the lore. So you need to understand where to prune. And also, just because Ashray has been saying it's a lot in chat, I would count those as paladins. At the very least, as a holy order. Oh, look. The wife. Dean is very cool, articulate, very thoughtful. It's the cats that do it.
That is.
Well, we've been going for about an hour. Anything you want to add, Brass?
I think at the end of the day, paladins, like everyone has their favorite class, not just in D&D, but in general. And I think paladins are supposed to embody the idea of someone who wants to be a hero and help and protect people and not be powerless against evil. I think it's an emboldening class. It may be some people have been helpless in their lives or been subject to injustice, and there's nothing they can do about it. A paladin can do something about it and will. And so I think for people like that, that's what a paladin's for. Whereas you get some people who don't like the idea of a paladin. They think they're too righteous and all, and that sometimes boils down to people who have had bad religious experiences or something along those lines, and so they prefer to play the rogue, the atheist, the the lone ranger or something like that, because maybe that's how they've lived their lives, and they don't care about other people. They're just doing what's best for themselves, and that's not necessarily an evil point of view. That's not a wrong point of view. Everyone's got different life experiences. I personally love a paladin, not for any deep philosophical reason. I just really like the aesthetic.
And that is absolutely fine. I mean, we've had this conversation in private before, Brass. I use a lot of big words to try and sound smart.
Yes.
And I think too deeply about this sometimes. But at the end of the day, it's a game. Or it's escapism. We can take a lot of lessons from books and from stories and from games. But at the end of the day, my paladin has big sword and make goblin go squish.
True.
By the way, guys, if you've got something to say before we start trying to wrap things up a little bit in a few minutes, super chats are good. Money, please. My first character in Dungeons & Dragons, proper Dungeons & Dragons mind, was a paladin. In fact, I rebuilt him for your campaign. It was a big plate armor, two-handed sword guy called Baldur. It's where my gamer tag comes from. And I did adhere to the lawful, stupid kind of way of doing things.
It's an easy trap to fall into as a
I was
beginner.
memeing the entire time. I was little. I was young.
Also, Ashray's asked, what's my thoughts on whose favorite classes are Warlock, Wizard, and
Don't give him a
Sorcerer?
free shout out. That's fine.
Nah, well, I think people who like Wizards and Sorcerers and Warlocks. I mean, Warlock, I don't know, maybe you want to be edgy. Same sort of people that like the Rogues, I guess. Or they want something simple as hell. They want to be a caster, but they also don't want anything complicated. So it's like Warlock is the barbarian caster.
I smell another tier list.
Wizard, you're either a min-maxer or you are you have a high estimation of your own intelligence. And then Sorcerer is you just want to be cool and be a wizard, but without the actual effort.
I would like to say a quick thanks to Mr. Jack McCarthy. I believe that you and I are on his list, Dean.
We are.
I got added to it after you, and I was like, I should be on the top of this list. I am the number one goblin hater. Brass, are you a goblin hater?
I created goblins that you can truly hate, though.
Goblin. Yeah, actually, I think I'm a goblin hater. I was going to say I'm a goblin pitier, but no, I think I just hate them.
Hold on, let me just quickly grab something here, just to make it really bloody easy for Mr. McCarthy. Mr. McCarthy, there's a link to the Brass Drake. Put him on the list. Grow my order. We're all paladins, though we took the oath of goblin slaying. I like wizards. Wizards are a good class. I'm very fond of
That's
wizards.
because you have a high estimation of your own intelligence.
Very true. Dean.
Yes.
Have you got any further thoughts on this before we just shoot the shit for a bit?
My only thought on this is when I approached the paladin class within Untold Destiny, I took it from the religious aspect. Of course, I don't use alignments, so if you play a paladin, I don't use alignments for players, but if you play a paladin, you have an alignment code, which is an organized religion that's holy, and then their tenets that you have to adhere to, or you begin to lose powers.
Do you become a fighter?
Sorry?
Do you become a fighter if you lose all your powers?
No, you just lose your spell points. You just can't cast magics. You know.
So you're worse.
All of your you summon your mount and nothing appears. It's that, and at that point, you're pretty screwed. But then I thought about what about the other religions, the ones that are organized but neutral, or organized but very chaotic. Organized but very evil, or the ones that are chaotic but very nature-based. They won't have paladins. So I thought of the very organized but neutral religions. A lot of the dwarven religions are like that, where they're not good or evil, that they're just very functional, very, that they got a purpose in society. And they have what I've called crusaders, which are paladin-esque, but they are more about protecting the church, protecting their creed, protecting their clans. And I think that kind of flavor begins to work, because then as you go down now to the orcs, which are going to be potentially chaotic and profane, they will have their chosen, which will be dubbed, and given a class and
berserkers.
Yeah, berserkers or whatever it happens to be, but they will have their flavor. Whether it's a flavor of paladin, I don't think it's a flavor of paladin, but I think it's a flavor of a religious fanatic of the martial arts.
Yeah.
Quick rumble rant from Jeff from Denkar. What's the next class you will cover, and why is it warlocks? We will we will never do warlocks. Thank you for your $2. I don't know. I feel like this topic was something that I wanted to talk about in a safer environment. As you can see, Mr. Delver was in the chat earlier on, and is very passionate about this particular topic, and I really appreciate and respect the opinion of older players like that, especially when they are so vehemently against the change, because I understand what was done to them during that time period, the bullying, the satanic panic. When I was in high school, I was beaten black and blue because I played dice roller games. I understand the I understand the knee-jerk reaction to gatekeep. Is what it is, and I respect it, because I think only from a point of understanding and respecting can you then begin to open up that gate a little bit, and perhaps provide a fresh idea to let this the tradition continue to move, because you don't want to be a rock in the river of tradition. You want to be flowing along with it, and knowing which way it will meander. Out as a goblins next episode. No, wife, no. We don't talk about goblins. We simply crush them. Before we go, lads, we've been doing quite a bit together now. There is a possibility of an in-person meeting coming up. Brass Drake face reveal, maybe?
No.
I'll just put.
It'll be a
I'll
face
just
reveal
Photoshop
to
your. I'll just Photoshop your model head over your body.
I'll just go in a mask.
You just turn up in a furry suit.
Oh, God.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking forward to meeting you guys. Well, I've met you but many times, Brass, sadly. Well, Dean, it'd be good to actually sit down, hash some stuff out.
I think it would be, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Watch this space lady. Watch this space, ladies and gents. Things are happening. Things are moving behind the scenes. Pieces are being placed upon the board. And now more than ever, your like and your subscribe, your sharing of the channel, of my content, of the stream is always appreciated. You can go and check out Dean's stuff at Dean at Hill_Jowett. You can find Brass over at the Brass Drake over on X. You can also go ahead and subscribe to each of them. Brass, have you got your link?
Oh, hang on a minute. Let me get.
God, I thought you'd seen that coming.
Oh yeah. Well, I didn't realize it'd be this soon.
I will also grab Every Games link as well while you're mucking about with that, because chaps, we're growing very quickly. Over the last 14 days on over on X, through the power of elven breasts, we have grown by about 1,500 followers, which I think is incredible amount of growth.
Oh yeah.
I can't find Untold Destiny now. It's vanished.
Whilst you talk, I'll find a link. And
yeah. So not only have we. Oh, hey Vicky. Not only have we increased by about 1,500 people in 15 days over on X, we've been trickling a lot of those people through onto the channel. We're coming up on 700 subs. That 1,000, that last sort of 350 we need, is within spitting distance. Please, guys, if you are in the chat now and you're an old subscriber or a new subscriber, I appreciate you greatly. Go ahead, take the channel link and just spam it out to everywhere and anywhere. Because the plan for what is going to come out of We 3 is spectacular. But like I've explained a million times to these fine gentlemen, product does not guarantee an audience, but an audience guarantees a product. So if you want to support a Grundleskull the Grimm's Tower, if you want to support an Untold Destiny, if you want to support Brass's trash tier lists, then get me to that 1,000 subs so I can boost the hell out of these guys. We can have our little in-person meeting, and we can get you something that is actually going to be worth your time, and maybe even worth a few dollary dues. Because having donations like this is great. Really appreciate it. It helps keep the stream going and breaking even. I think we've done very well this stream. But growth is going to be key to get this sort of positive message about the genre of fantasy out to a wider audience. That's not necessarily Dungeons and Dragons, but it is genre fantasy. I've got plans to go to conventions. I've got plans to shake hands in person with people in an effort to try and put forward this, I'll say it, this apolitical, fantasy-first, escapism-minded genre. And I look forward to having you guys along on that journey with me, Brass, Dean, and especially bringing along these first 1,000 subscribers. You can follow Everett Games, which is Untold Destiny, over on Facebook. That is the Brass Drake. That's not what I want at all.
Why not?
You can follow Everett Games over on Facebook, or you can follow them over on X there. They are also on YouTube. Just search Untold Destiny and go for Business Unusual. Very highly produced, very nice. And I honestly think that there is sparks of something special that is happening, especially with Untold Destiny and with the way this community here is coming together. I think we're about done. That's a high note to end it on, lads.
That is. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you very much for coming, gentlemen. I have no idea what we're going to talk about next week.
Goblin
Warlocks.
Yeah, Goblin Warlocks. Yeah. And my next tier list is going to be Grognard tier list.
I think my next the next video out will either be Paladins or it will be session 5 of Untold Destiny. That does need to hit the shelves before Monday. Right, chaps, chapettes, Dean, Brass, thank you. Everyone, have a good night. Do please like, subscribe, share the content around the place. That is now your mission, chaps and chapettes, because it helps an awful lot. Do tell just one friend. Thank you all very much for the super chats and rebel rants.